Welcome to High Cheese. It's Friday, June 21st, 2024, first day of summer. We got a nice hot one here in New Jersey, and I like it hot. But I want to go over some polls, and I know some people are a little upset over this Fox poll, and I'll get into that later. But we shouldn't be surprised about the Fox poll, and I'll tell you why later. But I want to go over some recent polls that came out yesterday, and these are from the swing states. And this election is going to be won in the swing states. The national average or the national popularity will have very little to do with Trump being reelected. It's all going to be done in the swing states. So let's get into these swing states which Trump lost in 2020. So let's take a look at Arizona. This poll is by Emerson, Trump +4. Georgia, Emerson, Trump +4. Nevada, Emerson, Trump +3. Pennsylvania, Emerson, Trump +2. Wisconsin, Emerson, Trump +3. And here's a whopper. Minnesota, the blue state of Minnesota, it's a tie. Now, Survey USA also came out with a poll that says Biden's up 6 in Minnesota. But Minnesota is competitive. And if Minnesota is competitive, Biden's got a lot to worry about. Michigan, Trump +1. So if Trump wins these swing states, he wins the election. It's as simple as that. And these national polls are a good indicator, but it all comes down to the swing states. So let's get into these national polls. NPR, liberal NPR came out with a poll on the 18th, and it said, it's a tie. Then Morning Consult, also a left-winging outfit, Biden +1. And let's get into this Fox poll. It says here Biden +2, generally. And we shouldn't be surprised. We know Rupert Murdoch's hate Trump. We know that Paul Ryan is on the board of Fox, and I'll play a clip with him later. He's a Trump hater. And this puts pressure on the pollsters in the way they collect and synthesize the data into a poll. Now, here's the one thing that surprised me. You know, the headlines at Fox, Trump losing to Biden by 2. But if you took a look down into this article, they mentioned that among likely voters, Trump is up 3, but they don't want to tell you that. They tried to bury it in the article that Trump is up 3 with likely voters. And then the article goes on to poo-poo the idea, that likely voters at this point is really not important. Yes, it is. Why'd you poll it? And the other interesting thing, and I got this from the Gateway Pundit, is that this Fox poll came out and said that Biden is beating Trump in rural areas. And this is far beyond logic because a good chunk of Trump's base is in the rural areas. And I tell you what's happening. I'm going to go to a clip with Neil Cavuto interviewing Paul Ryan, the Rhino Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House that really hurt the American people. He's a globalist, hates Trump, hates populism. So let's go to this clip and then we'll come back and discuss.
I, like the majority of Americans, wish we had a different choice than the one we're being presented with. I can't help but think Nikki Haley, the week she was dropping out, she was 16 points on Biden. She'd probably win this thing by 12 points. But
she is now supporting Donald Trump.
My point is, it's going to be a very, very close race. I think they're terrible choices that we're being presented with. And that's just the fate of, that's what the primary voters selected. And I regret the fact that that's where we are.
All right. Now, I know a lot of these folks who also shared your same concerns about Donald Trump have sort of said, all right, we're rallying around Donald Trump. You had said, though, that would not be the case with you.
And first of all, why is Neil Cavuto having a member of your board on your show? He's looking to curry favor with the authorities. And remember, Paul Ryan is one of the people that helped create this mess that we're in. And quite frankly, the Ryans, the Murdochs, they could live with a Biden administration again. because they got it going for themselves. They couldn't care less what the American people want. It's what we want. So he didn't like what happened. Trump came out. He's the big victor in the primaries. He's up in the polls. And he goes, I'm going to use my power to try to kneecap Donald Trump. I'm going to take it to the press. And this is what he's trying to do. Now, behind the scenes, what's probably happening is these pollsters are looking to curry favor with Ryan and the Murdochs, because that's where their next contract is coming. These pollsters make a lot of money on these contracts, and they want to give their clients what they want. And Fox News could have easily just led with a headline that said Trump leads Biden by 3% with likely voters. But they chose not to because they don't like Trump. So expect more of this coming from Fox. Fox knows better than everyone else. And Fox will put pressure on pollsters and put pressure on their higher profile people and lower profile people to try to undercut Trump. So expect that in the future, and we shall see. So, Anthony Fauci met again with Congress this week. And through all these hearings, we know that Fauci is just a two-faced liar. We know that there was no real science behind the 6-foot distancing. We know what he said, the masks didn't work, then they did work, then they didn't work. Then we see him at a baseball game with the mask off. Then he supported keeping kids out of the schools. Then he said, oh, maybe it was wrong. He's all over the place. He's going to try to weasel his way out of any situation. He thinks he can talk his way out of any situation because deep down, he's a politician. He's not a scientist. He's a politician. And that's why he was able to stay so long in Washington. As long as you have the ability to talk out both sides of your mouth, curry favor with the right people, you'll last a long time. And he's the poster boy for this type of person. Not real science. He's not a real scientist. He's a politician. He's a political scientist in a different way. Not the way that you and I think you go to school to study political science. But he's a scientist that's been politicized. And it's all about him. Now, I'm going to play a clip. And he's responding about the origins of the virus, whether it's natural or whether it came from the Wuhan lab. And apparently in his book, he said, there's a conspiracy, and now he's talking at both sides of his mouth. So let's go to this clip, and then we'll come back and discuss.
That you did not suppress the lab leak theory, yet in the past you have said, quote, it is a distortion of reality, unquote. You've said, quote, I've heard these conspiracy theories, and like all conspiracy theories, they're just conspiracy theories. That's what you told the American people. And so would you like to clarify what science were you following then versus now?
No, I've also been very, very clear and said multiple times that I don't think the concept of there being a lab leak is inherently a conspiracy theory. What is conspiracy is the kind of distortions of that particular subject, like it was a lab leak and I was parachuted into the CIA like Jason Bourne and told the CIA that they should really not be talking about a lab leak.
Thank you.
That's the conspiracy.
Appreciate that.
And I think he was being interviewed by Congresswoman Maliotakis from New York. But you see how he just changes everything. He changes the definition. Oh, this is the conspiracy. I wasn't talking about the real conspiracy of the lab leak. I was talking about the conspiracy with all these extraneous issues that are meaningless to the underlying Wuhan lab leak. He talks about, the conspiracy, me parachuting into intelligence and talking to them about it. Just wants to define. He just wants to change the definition as things go along. Plays it by ear as it goes along. Same thing that the CDC did. When the vaccines came out and we found out that they weren't really vaccines, they didn't stop the spread of the virus. Well, the CDC just simply changed the definition of what a vaccine is. And this is what he's doing here. Well, I changed the definition of what a conspiracy was. It's not about the Wuhan leap. It's about the other stuff. And then he goes on to say, oh, I've always been up front and I've always spoke the truth or something. Well, he's always been clear with speaking at both sides of his mouth. That's what he's saying here. And really, if there's really one person that has undermined science today, it's him. He'd rather be on TV than really pursuing science. He'd rather gain power from his position instead of really pursuing science. Or he uses quote science to pursue his positions of power. And I guess it didn't really go well this week because he had to go lick his wounds by going on The View, of all places. This so-called scientist is going on The View. Oh, that's a really good scientific show. But he just needed consolation because he really took it on the chin over these hearings. And he's really been exposed. So he's got to go meet up with some friends, lick his wounds, have someone put an arm around his shoulder. Oh, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, it was pretty bad. He's being exposed as a fraud, and we know it. And the American people are picking up on it. So we shall see. Oh boy, did you see Joe Biden at the G7 summit where he just wandered off from all the other leaders of the G7? And this is something that's been ongoing over the years with Joe Biden. He's just deteriorating. Most recently, we see him being led off the stage at a Democrat fundraiser by Obama. We've got many, many clips of Joe Biden freezing, staring out into space. And this is just indicative of a failing man, physically and mentally. But he's getting covered by the mainstream media. They've invented a new word. It's called cheap fakes. Oh, all these videos of Joe Biden looking like an invalid. Oh, they're taken out of context. It's a cheap fake. And the most recent cover is them trying to portray Biden as just walking off so he wants to talk to somebody else. One of the other soldiers that were part of the demonstration. I think it was like a parachute or something that they flew down in. But the interesting thing is that they're calling this thing a cheap fake. And all a cheap fake is, it's a video taken out of context. That's what all it is. And they're all using this to give Joe Biden cover. But even if you took a look at the full video of him wandering off, the media says, he wandered off to talk to another soldier. No, he didn't. That soldier was 10, 15 yards away. He was on his knees. I think he was packing up a parachute. And Joe Biden is looking beyond him into space. I think he was babbling something. And he had to be pulled back into the group by, I think, Italian President Merloni. Oh, come on, old man. Come back to us. This is where the action is. Nothing over there to see. And he gets led back by Merloni. I think another member of the G7. So they bring him casually back to the, nothing to see here, old man. But the media wants you to believe, he was talking to that soldier that was on his knees packing up the parachute. So they want you to believe that, don't believe reality. Believe what we tell you it is. And with that said, let's go to this clip, and it's from CBS. And they're trying to make you believe that Biden didn't wander off. He was engaged in with some soldier that was bent down packing his parachute. Biden was just looking off into space. I don't even know if Biden knew that soldier was there on his knees. So let's go to this clip, and then we'll come back and discuss.
Take a look at this clip, for example. It shows Biden and other world leaders watching a skydiving demonstration before the president is seen walking away and looking in another direction. Outlets claimed that he was sort of just aimlessly wandering away. The clip amassed millions of views within just a few hours, when actually if you widen out, you can see that he was talking to one of the members of the military that was participating in that demonstration.
He was aimlessly wandering off. He saw a shiny object. That was a wander, but they don't want you to believe that. And if you disagree with them, oh, you're creating a cheap fake. It's the word of the day for them. The word to protect Joe Biden. Cheap fake. And then CBS brings in this so-called expert. And what she does, she takes 5-6 minutes just to explain something simple of what a cheap fake is. We all know what it is. It's a video taken out of context. But these so-called experts, and they love their experts, to explain the obvious. They've got to bring an expert in to define it for us. And then what really gets me, and I'll go back to this interview. The CBS reporter asked, well, who should we listen to? How do we know what is a cheap fake and what is not a cheap fake? So let's go to this clip, and then we'll come back and discuss.
Number one piece of advice I would have is always check your sources. So if you see something on an account, is this a partisan account? Is it pushing for a particular candidate? And does it have a history of posting misinformation? And the second thing, which I think is really important, is always seek another source. So don't just take it from one account. Make sure that you get a second source or even a third source. And most importantly, make sure that's a credible source.
And CBS Confirmed is one of the most credible. Rona Taran, thank you so much for breaking it down with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you see how self-serving this is by them? Oh, we'll tell you. Listen to us. Listen to CBS. We'll tell you what a deep fake is and not or not. And really, when you look at that full video of Biden at the G7 summit, he wandered off. He had to be pulled back by the other G7 members. But it's the word of the day by the mainstream media, just to give Joe Biden cover. So we shall see. And doesn't it seem like every week you read in the newspaper about an illegal raping, killing a woman in the United States? And this week, let me give you this week's three. The mother of 5, Rachel Morin, was raped and killed by an illegal migrant who illegally crossed the border 4 times last year. Then there was a 12-year-old girl, Jocelyn Nungari. She was raped and murdered by 2 Venezuelan illegal migrants, one who crossed the border illegally less than a month ago. And then we have that poor 13-year-old girl that was raped by an Ecuadorian migrant in Queens. And he was captured by a group of citizens who detained him. I heard they roughed him up a little bit, got no problem with it. But one thing is, I heard there was a $10,000 reward for the capture of this guy. And every one of those citizens in Queens that detained this guy until the cops came, they should get that reward. But this is an ongoing thing. And the Biden administration doesn't want to address it. Mainstream media doesn't want to address it because it's bad for them. And these women that you see on TV, they're supposed to be feminists. Well, why don't they speak up about the rape and the murder that's going on by illegal migrants? But they just want you to ignore it because it doesn't affect them. Oh, it affects the unwashed people. And unless it affects us, I don't care. Because we want our gravy train to keep on going. We want Biden in office. And they're also coming out with these FBI statistics that say, oh, crime is going down. Now, first of all, the weakness in these FBI statistics about crime is they're only as good as the crime that's being reported to them. And one thing I do know firsthand is that, particularly in the urban areas, big cities, there's a lot of pressure not to report certain crimes because they want the politicians want the people to feel safer. And it also helps for these police directors and police commissioners to underreport crime because it makes them look better. So I think it's these watered down statistics from the FBI that we're seeing right now, which the mainstream media is pumping up. You see, crime is going down. Well, it's only because it's not being reported. And I would make the point to them is that even if these were legitimate numbers, if we didn't have the illegal immigration, crime would be even lower. But their head pops. They don't know how to contemplate. They don't know how to understand this. It's either because they're just not smart enough or they're just covering up for their ideology. And this is happening in the urban areas. This is happening all over the United States, particularly in minority areas, African American areas, Hispanic areas. That's why people are going for Trump. This lifestyle in America is not what they expected. And it's all because of Joe Biden. So we shall see. Okay, I want to read an article before I go, and it's from Zero Hedge. And the headline says, Louisiana orders schools to display 10 commandments in every classroom, including colleges. In the latest shot fired in America's intensifying culture wars, Louisiana will now require public schools to display a 10 Commandments poster in every classroom, after Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed a bill into law on Wednesday. If you want to respect the rule of law, you've got to start from the original lawgiver, which was Moses, Landry said in the bill signing event. Starting in January, each public classroom in the Pelican State must have a display of the 10 Commandments, measuring at least 11 by 14 inches, using a large, easily readable font. This display must include a 4-paragraph context statement on how the commandments were a prominent part of American public education for almost 3 years. And the left is going nuts. You've got the ACLU threatening to sue, and I'm sure they're going to wind up in court. I think Landry had said, I welcome court cases on this. Now, even if you strip away the religious context of the 10 Commandments, those are pretty good codes to live by, even in the secular world, even to those secular people. Those are pretty good codes to live by. But they can't have it because it's attached to Judeo-Christian values. And like I said in previous episodes, they must hate our laws because our laws, our common law, which we've followed for centuries, has been heavily influenced by the Bible, has been heavily influenced by the 10 Commandments. So ultimately, they're just exposing themselves. They hate our laws. They hate the Judeo-Christian cornerstone of America. And you're going to see these people come out of the woodwork, come from under their rocks to go after Louisiana. And all I can say is pray for them. These secularists are just they hate religion so much they can't see the underlying value in the 10 Commandments. So with that said, thank you very much for listening. You have a good week, and I will talk to you next Saturday.